Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy. From now on, all navigating through the Strait of Hormuz is forbidden. No ship in every type is not allowed to pass from the Strait of Hormuz till next notice.
If you drive to work, buy groceries, or pay a utility bill in the U.S., what's happening right now in the Middle East can hit your wallet fast through oil, shipping, and market panic. Today, we're breaking down what's confirmed, what's not, and why the Strait of Hormuz has suddenly become one of the biggest pressure points on the global economy.
Why does the tiny Strait of Hormuz matter so much? The Strait of Hormuz is a narrow sea passage between Iran and Oman, but it's one of the most important waterways on Earth.
Here's the basic situation. Multiple outlets are reporting severe disruption to shipping through the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow passage that's critical for global energy flows. Reuters described a deepening Gulf shipping crisis with tankers stranded for multiple days as the conflict escalated. At the same time, energy markets reacted sharply. The Associated Press reported energy prices surging as tanker disruptions rattled global markets. And NPR reported that oil prices were elevated while traffic through the strait slowed dramatically, with analysts warning that longer disruption could push prices higher. Why is everyone laser focused on this one stretch of water? Because the Strait of Hormuz is a global choke point. If traffic slows or insurers won't cover voyages, energy doesn't move normally, and prices can jump fast. And the knock-on effects aren't just gasoline. When fuel costs rise, shipping and manufacturing costs can rise too, which can show up later in food prices, delivery fees, and overall inflation. Here's where it's important to separate confirmed disruption from worst-case forecasts. Reuters reported that global oil and gas shipping costs surged amid rising fears around the strait and wider conflict risk. Meanwhile, CNBC reported oil and natural gas surging after reports around Iran and the Strait of Hormuz, highlighting how sensitive markets are to any signal that flows could be restricted. Now to one of the most consequential policy angles being reported. Multiple outlets say the U.S. issued a temporary waiver allowing India to buy certain Russian oil under specific conditions, framed as a way to reduce supply pressure during this crisis. Reuters reported Indian refiners were studying legal implications after the U.S. allowed a 30-day waiver tied to Russian oil imports. The Guardian also reported on a U.S. waiver allowing India to buy Russian oil amid the Iran war context. And BBC News reported the U.S. allowing India to buy Russian oil during the conflict, again emphasizing the trade-off between stabilizing energy supply and the geopolitical consequences. Supporters of this move argue it's about preventing a price shock. Critics argue it risks indirectly benefiting Russia's war economy. The key point? This is a high-stakes trade-off, and the impacts could show up in both markets and diplomacy. Another headline that raised alarms reports that Russia has provided Iran with intelligence related to U.S. forces in the region. Reuters reported on this based on a Washington Post report describing claims that targeting information included locations of American warships and aircraft in the Middle East. CNN also reported that Russia is aiding Iran's war effort by providing intel on U.S. military targets, citing sources. Because this is intelligence-related, details can be hard to verify publicly in real time. But even the allegation changes how markets and governments assess risk, especially if it raises the perceived threat to U.S. assets and supply routes. You may also have seen dramatic oil price numbers circulating. A key reason is a warning attributed to Qatar's energy leadership, suggesting a scenario where Gulf energy exports could be interrupted and prices could spike sharply. A Financial Times post highlighted Qatar warning that war could force Gulf producers to halt exports within weeks. Other coverage repeated that framing, emphasizing the risk of exporters invoking force majeure. So what should Americans watch over the next days and weeks? First, gasoline and diesel prices. Even before any long-term shortage, price spikes can happen from fear, insurance costs, and rerouted shipping. Second, broader inflation pressure, because transport costs touch almost everything. Third, market volatility. When energy spikes, it can hit airlines, shipping, manufacturing, and consumer confidence. Here's what we don't know yet, and anyone claiming certainty is probably overselling the story. We don't know how long disruption will last. We don't know whether there will be a negotiated de-escalation soon. We don't know whether energy flows stabilize quickly or whether risk premiums stay elevated for weeks. So the most responsible approach is to track confirmed updates, avoid viral rumors, and watch official statements alongside market data. If you want, I can keep doing quick source-based updates as this develops, shipping, oil, and what it means for U.S. prices, without the online drama. If this breakdown was useful, hit like, subscribe, and check the description for every major source and map used in this video.